Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. I have back one of my favorite guests. He comes to us from Canada. He specializes in what he calls forensic macroeconomic analysis. He's just a smart guy and puts it all together all around the world. He also has deep contacts in the precious metal industry. I mean, people that buy gold and silver by the ton. I am talking about Rob Kirby of Kirby Analytics. Rob Kirby, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Pleasure to be with you again, Greg.
You know, we're seeing this $3 trillion run up since the Trump win in the 2016 election here in America. And then I hear other big financiers, namely people like Jeff Gundlach and Kyle Bass, talking about buying gold. I mean, we're having this beautiful run up in the stock market. Why would you want to turn around and buy that ancient relic gold? What's going on? What does that tell you about what's going on in the gold market? And what are your sources saying?
People are turning to the precious metals, Greg, because I think people are of the mind that they want to remove counterparty risk from their asset mix. When you own and hold physical metal, there's no one between you and your investment. And with stocks which are at record highs, and I would say are running on vapor fumes right now, when they can turn savage on a moment's notice, and it can become very difficult to get out of big equity positions when the markets turn very sour in a very short period of time.
You know, they can turn up too. And one of the big wild cards that flipped over, a lot of people weren't expecting a Trump win. And all of a sudden, Shazam, he wins big and the market takes off like a rocket. Did you expect that to happen? I mean, we were going, all the signs were we were going down. Are we still going down? Is the Trump bump real?
I would remind everybody that the initial reactions in the equity markets when Trump was unexpectedly declared the winner on election night, the initial move in the stock markets was to plummet. And the initial move in the precious metals area was for the metals to soar. And both of those, the down in the equity and the up in the precious metals, was absolutely reversed by a massive market intervention on the part of the powers that be. With respect to gold, within 3 days of the election, the amount of paper contracts that were sold in the gold market, Greg, amounted to 3 years worth of annual global gold production. So 3 years worth of gold that is mined out of the ground on the planet was sold in paper form in 3 days in the immediate aftermath of the election. This is what turned a sensational up in precious metals into a massive down. And if the powers that be were showing their handiwork with the metals on the downside, you can rest assured that they were also involved in the equity up in terms of very likely buying S&P futures and goosing the stock market up. So these are artificial constructs, Greg.
So the overarching market is down for the financials. Interest rates, they're at the 10-year Treasury is now at 2.3. 3%, something like that, and the markets are at one record all-time high after another. What's their game here? What were they trying to do? Can they keep this going on? Some people think they can keep this going on till Dow 30,000. What say you?
Well, I would have it that the reality is the U.S. dollar is not really strong. America's biggest financiers, traditionally being Japan, Saudi Arabia, and China, have been net sellers of U.S. government securities now for the past 18 to 24 months. They continue to be sellers. The United States continues to roll its existing debt and add to it I would say, at a record pace. And my big question, Greg, and something I'm having a lot of trouble getting to the bottom of exactly is who's buying the bonds. I mean, we haven't seen interest rates really back up that much. We've got a 10-year Treasury yield currently of around 235. We have been as high as 2.5 a couple weeks ago, but just think about it. America's biggest traditional financiers are selling U.S. government debt. Interest rates are not really backing up, at least I would say not very much. And my question remains, who's buying the bonds? And it's my belief that it's the Exchange Stabilization Fund that is buying the bonds with dark money, off-balance sheet money, held in the secretive institution, the adjunct of the U.S. Treasury called the Exchange Stabilization Fund, or the ESF. And it's my contention that it's the ESF that's buying these bonds and deep sixing them. But any way you look at it, there's and there are some people who I know disagree with me, who claim that there's a dollar shortage in the world. I don't believe there's a dollar shortage at all. I think we're seeing evidence that there are too many dollars in the world, not too few. And anecdotally, I would suggest to anybody, pay attention to what's going on in real estate markets around the world. I can tell you in Canada, where we've got record prices. I know that prices have rebounded and are at record levels, or very near record levels again in America. The real estate prices are at record levels in Britain. They're at record levels in Australia. They're at record levels in China. This is not what you'd expect in an environment where there are too few dollars. And we're seeing the equity markets rally and make day after day new all-time highs. These are not the kind of things you see when there are too few dollars. This is symptomatic of in my view, it might be the thin edge of the wedge of a crack-up boom. And money is getting to the street because money is being taken out of dark pools on the dark side of the U.S. Treasury and being injected into the marketplace, and as bonds are being sold off and redeemed. So this, in my view, is occurring right under our nose. And of course, the Fed has no declared QE program in place right now, but yet the world is flush with money, Greg, extremely flush with money.
Is that what people like Gunlock and people like Heyman Capital, Kyle Bass, is that what these guys are spooked over? That they don't see a dollar shortage, they see inflation or hyperinflation, and they want to latch onto a gold. And I guess with that, maybe we get some kind of a crash or a big crash. Yeah,
these people are very perceptive, Greg. These people pay attention to what's going on around them. These people are aware that there's too many dollars chasing too few things, and they realize that what they're witnessing around them can't be happening unless money is being expanded, and money is being expanded around the world, and like I say, I believe it's coming out of the dark side of the U.S. Treasury, and the world's awash in money right now, and this can make things very unstable going forward. Because
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, if you produce too much money, Greg, you run the risk of triggering a hyperinflation. And if we do end up in a hyperinflationary event, the price of metals will soar, and they will soar relative to anything else that goes up in value as well.
There's a lot of moving parts with this economy, and what I saw this week, 43, who never said a word, George Bush, W. 43. He never said a word against Obama. He even at very early on said, "I'm not going to make any comments about it. But the next president, it's really not right for me to do that," or some junk like that. Well, with Trump, he's out saying we should have answers to this Russia thing, which, of course, Hillary Clinton sold a fifth of our uranium production with bribes to a charity she is now shutting down. I think 145 million was described in the Clinton Cash book. But that doesn't seem to be a problem. Also, Bush doesn't like the immigration problem. They're all heading up to where you are in Canada, supposedly. But I digress. Here's the big headline. Trump comes out in an interview this week and says, hey, former President Obama is behind the violent protests, which is sedition, which is a form of treason. That is making things really kind of unstable, is it not, to have that kind of back and forth with, a president in his party and a former president outside of his party that he's claiming is causing violent protest around the country?
Well, as much as it hurts me to go here, Greg, I'm going to suggest to you that if people want to pay attention to or remember back to the Podesta emails that were leaked by WikiLeaks, there's a lot of innuendo in those emails suggesting that a vast number of highly connected politicos are engaged in human trafficking and possibly pedophilia. And as much as it hurts me to even consider the notion, to me, there's enough smoke surrounding the issue that there's very likely something to it. And my feeling is that the powers that be are trying to cripple Trump and his attempts, because Trump, I believe, is on notice saying that he's going to rout out these people that are engaged in human trafficking in the sex trade. And there's a lot of people. If the allegations are indeed factual, this would make a lot of people very uncomfortable. And all I'm saying is it would explain why both sides of the aisle are showing such animosity towards Trump and his agenda.
Well, let me add one little thing too, so I can buttress this. The town hall did a story about how the mainstream media is completely ignoring the hundreds. I think it was 1,600 in the last 30 days of sex trafficking arrests that ICE has made. Not a peep from the mainstream press, just to tell you that's a factual story. He's going after these sex traffickers, and they're arresting hundreds and hundreds of them, way more, 4 or 5 times the amount that have ever been arrested in the Obama administration. So I just wanted to add that into your monologue here. Go ahead.
Well, unfortunately, Greg, the scuttlebutt is that the key members of the media are very likely engaged in this business as well. So it seems that an awful lot of people in very, very influential and powerful positions might be very, very susceptible to being and have big reason to not want this to surface in its blood and guts and details. But it seems to me that there's a very, very big chance as time moves along that we see something, and there have been some prognosticators who have pretty impressive track records, who say it's in the cards that some very, very big names are going to be consumed with this whole issue.
President Trump came out and he was talking on with Hannity and said that he thinks, Bill Clinton's a nice guy. Something to the effect, this isn't an exact quote, but it's close. Bill Clinton's a nice guy, but, he's going to have trouble with Epstein and that island. He's going to have trouble.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender with his own private, supposedly sex island or whatever it is that Bill Clinton has been going to, former President Clinton. So, I just want to add that in there to your just.
Yeah. Well, it was actually Trump at CPAC in 20. It was a year ago at CPAC that Donald Trump stated that he felt that Bill Clinton was going to have some serious issues regarding his known connection to Epstein and the island. So it would seem that Donald Trump is very much up the curve on this issue, and I know that just last week he had a meeting in the White House and where the topic I believe in the Roosevelt Room last Thursday mid-afternoon, and it was a meeting dealing specifically with the topic of trafficking in humans, sex trafficking.
And again, not reported. Yeah.
Or let's just say, I know there was a press conference given after that meeting that evening, last Thursday evening, regarding the topic. But let's just say, compared to the non-event, at least in my view, of Russia interfering in American elections, you would think that the human trafficking issue might be a little weightier, an issue to be being covered in the mainstream press. But lo and behold, it isn't, and nobody wants to talk about it, Greg.
Well, Trump says he made it clear. He said in a Breitbart interview that I didn't say the media was the enemy. I said the fake media was the enemy of the American people. Actually, it's the fake media is the enemy of everybody around the planet because you're getting fake information. If that's the case, I want to move back onto this budget deficit, which Trump has been saying I inherited a mess. And I think what he's really saying, and he actually verbalized this recently and said I inherited a mess. The budget is a mess, and don't worry, we're going to straighten it out. And, I had David Stockman on, and he says he's going to have a very hard time, getting, a debt ceiling raised after March 15th, which is a hard stop, according to Stockman. And he says he's going to have a very hard time getting this done because nobody's going to want to vote for it. Give us your take on the people have been writing me after the Stockman interview saying, can't they just raise the debt ceiling? Well, they could if people wanted to vote for it, but there's a lot of people that ain't going to want to vote for this. Can you shed some light on what's going to come down with this debt ceiling March 15th, which allows Trump to completely direct all the money coming into the federal government? He can line item veto anything he wants. He can add money here. He can take away money there. I mean, it might be what he wants. I don't know. But can you give me your take on this March 15th hard stop into the debt ceiling at $20 trillion?
I think that the date that David Stockman identified in your last interview with him, I think the date of March 15th could be a very significant date because if the debt ceiling is not raised, Trump is not going to have the financial resources at his disposal to conduct his agenda in the way he's declared that he would like to do it. And I mean, I look at it from the standpoint that many of the higher echelons of both sides of the aisle who could possibly be tainted by this sex trafficking issue are going to have very little interest in funding Donald Trump's agenda, particularly if his agenda happens to involve outing many of them for unthinkable acts. So to me, there's a built-in natural want on the part of officialdom to not allow or to give Trump basically a clean credit card to carry on his merry way, fulfilling his agenda. So, in all my life, Greg, I've never seen the angst, the vitriol, and the hate being expressed towards a leader of your country from both sides of the aisle. And there has to be a reason for it. And I think this whole issue of the sex trade is very likely the unifying factor as to why both sides are united. I mean, there has to be a reason for this. We are seeing things we have never seen before in the history of your country. And, there is a reason. So, and this, at least in my mind, would explain it. And, and if this just can't be, I'd like somebody to give me a good reason why this is occurring, because I can't for the life of me think of one.
Our good friend Catherine Austin Fitts dropped that bomb, and I've been kind of staying away from it because I thought, oh gosh. And then the reports in from Town Hall who say, and bravo to them, saying they're covering this up. They're very likely covering all these 1,600 arrests, I think, in the last 30 days for sex trafficking, human trafficking. Some of it has to do with children. And then Catherine Austin Fitts says, that she wouldn't be surprised, better than 50-50 chance in the next, 6 months, in the next year, whatever, there's going to be major arrests done with this sex trafficking and the pedophilia. This has got to be something real. I mean, is that what you're hearing in the background from your sources? You have global sources. Many people that I communicate with around the world, writers, financial minds, it's a front burner item for people in the alternative press. And all I can say is there's too much smoke, and when you see this much smoke, there's usually a flame somewhere, Greg. And what about I want to get back to your gold connections. Are you seeing? You buy you help. One of the things you do, not just macro economics or forensic macroeconomics, but one of the things you do is you basically facilitate the buying of tons of gold and silver. Are you seeing a spike in traffic for your from people, your sources, and trying to put people together to buy and sell in big, large numbers of gold and silver? I mean, if people like Jeff Gunlock are telling people they're buying gold, he's probably already done it. And so,
Yeah.
what are you seeing in that arena behind the scenes?
I'm seeing demand from places overseas where I haven't seen it before, and uh, what it speaks to me is that because, and I've been aware that supply of precious metal overseas has been very limited, and it's been very scarce. And what we're starting to see a little bit more of now, the evidence of people coming to North America to look for supply, more so than we have in the past. And I would say that supply is going to be a very big issue, probably in the very near future for both gold and silver.
It was somebody had wrote me, and I want you to explain this because you're the perfect guy to explain this. He says, I'm from Canada. You're from Canada too, and you're from Canada. I think you're in the Toronto area, I believe. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, and he says, I was in, I don't know, I can't remember, one of the big cities up there, either Vancouver or Toronto. And, I went into a precious metal store, into a coin store, and there were plenty of product out there. I just wanted to let you know there's plenty of product. And so, can you kind of square that with what you're saying? Is it because that they're not even messing with the coin market? The people that you deal with, they're messing with the bar market and by the ton. Can you explain to me what's going on with that? Is that it? I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's a big difference between buying half a dozen or a dozen gold coins at your local coin shop, than trying to source maybe 5 or 10 metric tons of gold. And if you have institutional interest to buy that's big enough, it can be very difficult, depending on where in the world you are, to source or to readily source like good hallmarked bars in quantity, and that's just understand, Greg, and everyone should understand this. The precious metals market is quite bifurcated, and when I say that, I mean the gold business and the gold industry is broken down into different constituents. I guess at its rudimentary level, there's a trade unto itself of extracting raw gold and raw silver out of Africa, where it comes out basically in doré form, which is less than pure, maybe 80% pure, and then it goes through a refining process where it's brought up to a good delivery standard, which would be 3 or 4 nines pure in the case of gold, 0.999 pure, and hallmarked with a good delivery seal of approval, where countries typically, or sovereigns that hold gold in reserves, they hold what's called good delivery bars in the reserves. And I mean, so that's a market much different than the raw market, because you can buy gold actually at a discount if it needs to be refined, and if you're buying it out of Africa, from tribes people out of Africa, because it's very dangerous to do business on the ground in those places. So you don't pay spot, like what we would call the spot price, to get raw gold out of Africa. But as gold goes through the refining process and is located in secure spaces, where its origin is known, and its quality and its pureness is known as a fact, that trades at a different level than raw gold. And then the coin market, and the coin market is even can be subdivided into numismatic and bullion. So different premiums get attached to different segments of the market. Like the highest price gold you'll ever buy will be a numismatic coin. Behind that, the next highest price you'll ever pay for an ounce would be for a bullion coin. That would be like a gold American Eagle or a gold Canadian Maple. The numismatics would have some sort of a rarity stipend attached to it, making it worth even a bigger premium than the bullion coin. And then when you get down into the bars, the bigger the bars, the closer to spot you're going to get. And then when you're into the raw gold that comes out of, literally comes out of the bush in Africa, you're into you can and very likely are into discounts. So, the gold market isn't one take it all price for all gold. And then there's melt, where people take jewelry that they no longer, wish to wear, and they want to liquidate, and that trades there's another market for melt gold, and so just understand that there are different markets, and the bullion coin market is determined largely by a function of the mints. Like in Canada, the Royal Canadian Mint, or the Mint in the United States, who produce the bullion coins that keep the coin shops supplied with. And so the market's bifurcated. It's not one price take it all. And when there's a shortage at the institutional level, it usually doesn't take long for it to percolate down to the retail level, because if institutions are having trouble finding 100-ounce and 400-ounce bars of gold, it doesn't take too long before mints, if they don't have a lot on hand, to run into supply issues to keep the coins coming.
So are you saying that by what you're saying so in other words, the big market, the Dory, the bars, the 100, the 400 ounce, that stuff is at a fever pitch. And are you saying that is forecasting a much tighter coin market, a much higher spot price for gold? Is that what you're forecasting?
Yeah, I'm suggesting there's going to come a point where it's going to be very difficult to source physical precious metal, and I think that we will get to a point where coin dealers just won't have inventory on their shelves to sell, and sales that do get conducted will probably be done by appointment, where people will pay and then will have to wait specified amounts of time to receive their product. You see, and there again, you're running the risk as an investor or a buyer of giving someone money and then hoping and praying that they actually make good on the delivery at some point in the future. And all I'm saying is it's counterparty risk, and people buying precious metal are usually doing so to avoid counterparty risk.
Is there a way for them to put this off again? Listen, I have talked to lots of people. You, one of them. I thought that they were going to go down a while ago, that the whole market was going to go down. I mean, the middle of 2016 looked terrible. So did 15. Also didn't look very good either. But they've seemed to, either by hook or by actual criminal activity and money printing and the exchange stabilization fund, which you're kind of an expert on. Is there any way for them to put this thing off again? I mean, people are of the mind that they can just raise the debt ceiling. Dow's going to go to 30,000. That we've heard all this before. Beware, warning, Will Robinson, that kind of thing. Is there any way for them to put this thing off again, or are we getting down, at least according to you and your sources, are we getting down to the hard stop moment?
I believe that we are very quickly approaching a point in time where the credibility of the people who are doing the price suppression in metals are going to discredit themselves to the point where what we know as the paper markets, or the futures markets are going to be abandoned. And ultimately, if you see the very act that we referenced at the beginning of the interview, where 3 times global production was sold within 3 days of the U.S. election to knock the price or prevent the price of gold from soaring, which it naturally wanted to do when the surprise election result was announced. I mean, I guess technically and in theory, Greg, I guess you could sell 1,000 years worth of annual global production, but would it be believable? And my guess is they're probably testing the limits of believability in their paper markets when they sell, and when regulators look the other way, when we have 3 times global production sales in paper form in a 3-day period. It's how big a whopper can you tell before you're called out on your lie. So you walk a very fine line when that's all you have left in the bag.
Yeah, and I think people like Jeff Gundlach and Kyle Bass are calling BS on the BS. That's what it seems to me. And
sure thing. But Greg, they also live in the real world, and they sense in their surroundings that there's no shortage of money. There's too much money, Greg. That's what people are noticing. And people are noticing that the price of everything is going up. Price of food's been going up. The price of real estate's going up. All of our financial products, the prices of them are going up. Commodities are going up. This is not symptomatic of a world where there's too few dollars. These are symptoms of too many dollars.
Rob Kirby, KirbyAnalytics.com. Rob Kirby, you also sell a subscription. I love this, that if people will email you, you personally email them back. Is that right?
Yep.
It's 145. Tell me what it is.
145 US for a year.
For a year. Very good. And you have all this wealth of information, all these clients, all these good, great global connections from around the world. That sounds like a deal to me. $145 a year. What is that? Is that $12 a month or something? It's nothing. I mean, it's no money. $10 a month. I don't know. Anyway, hey, listen, Rob Kirby, thanks for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com. Really appreciate you having you on.
Pleasure being with you, Greg.